And it felt like everything, that we had talked about, discussed, planned, prepped, all of that had just gone away.
Welcome to the Powerhouse. My name is Joshua Gonzalez, but you can call me JG. This show is for the moment before the win, when you're at the crossroads and your judgment actually matters. Each episode, I sit down with a leader here in New York City to unpack one real decision under pressure. What the stakes were, what the trade offs they faced, what they chose, and the values behind it. Then we publish a short written breakdown in the Powerhouse newsletter on LinkedIn. So the lesson is easy to share, easy to remember, and useful long after the recording. So if you ever had to make a hard call with imperfect information, this is for you. Let's get it started. Our featured leader is the co-founder and general partner of Momo VC. Please welcome Preeti Adhikari.
JC, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. How was your weekend?
Super busy. I spent
Great.
time with family and friends, but incredible.
That that's good. That's good. I know you mentioned you have a big story to share us. Let's get it started. Please, Preeti, tell us where were you right before making this big decision? What was happening?
Sure. So, like you talked about, I'm the general partner of Momo VC, and this story is something that a lot of people don't really know. And so, I think I'm ready to share it, with the wider public. So, this incident is about 2 years old. I think around this time, 2 years old, and it was in the middle of this exciting time where there were three individuals, including myself. We wanted to build an early stage VC fund in the US. We actually pooled in money to pay for the super expensive lawyer fees, and we actually were in the middle of incorporating our fund.
Great. Okay. This sounds like a beautiful start to a great story. Tell us what happened and what was option A in front of you and what was option B?
Sure. So, like I said, three individuals, the incorporation documents are being made, and then one of them, let's call him person A, decides to back out, right? So, in the middle of everything, and it was crazy, and there were a lot of nuances to it, right? So, just to give you context, it was person A and I who had initially decided to build a fund together. Apart from Momo VC, I'm also the founder of the Great Nepali Diaspora, which is a professional network of people around the world with roots in Nepal. So we've done a lot of work around mentorship, entrepreneurship, a lot of things. So this individual and I, we had been working together on some aspects, some initiatives together. We had run virtual incubators, we had done pitch events. So for about 1.5 years, we had been working together, right? And we sort of had those good similar skill sets, all of that. Super passionate about the what we were trying to do. And then the third individual had joined us much later, right? I think at that point it was maybe a year, if not around that time. And he had initially planned on joining us as an advisor, but then wanted to get more in. So for me, I think the crossroads or the fork in the road was where out of the three of us, one person wants to back out, right? For personal reasons. One crazy thing is the timing, because we're not just discussing it, we're actually doing it. It's like we've actually paid the money, right? And it's happening. So it was like, yeah, like, what does that mean, right? And for me, I think, personally, level, because the two of us especially were supposed to be doing it together, right? uh, and it felt like everything that we had talked about, discussed, planned, prepped, all of that had just gone away. So option one for me was, do I just shut down this idea? Do I not actually even make a fund happen? And number two is, do I proceed with whatever this means, right? Does it mean I actually even continue as a solo GP? Does it mean I continue with the second person, but just, continue, like put a full stop or move forward? I think those were my two options.
I see. Um, when you say full stop or move forward, right? That's the two route in front of you. If you chose, let's say, full stop, what was going to happen? What were you risking then?
Oh my God. I feel like at that point, I almost had put all my eggs in one basket, right? I was so obsessed with the idea of having my own fund. This was 2024, right? 2 years ago, around this time. And I had been thinking about and, planning to, build my fund for years before that. I had helped other funds, other VC funds like Alumni Ventures, Laconia, so many ones. I had done so many fellowships. I had built those relationships. I actually had bought the domain for Momo VC at I think in 2022. So 2 years even before we had done. So, I was so deep there. And for me, I think I had imagined this person as my co-founder to move forward, right? So the risk was, what does that mean uh, without this person, right? In terms of my idea, in terms of even our narrative, our value proposition, in terms of, I come from an operator background. I've been the VP of marketing and operations of an AI startup in New York City. I've helped tons of startups. But this other guy is a serial entrepreneur, had an exit and all of that. So, also brings that another set of skills in terms of scaling and helping companies, right? So it felt like I would have to go back to the drawing board, rethink my strategy, and maybe I would still be in venture. I would still be doing something because I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship and all of that. But I think it would definitely have been such a so different, so to speak.
I see. For option B, of course, moving forward, seems like you picked that path. Tell us more about that path and what was at risk then.
Sure. I think moving forward, one was like this sort of where it felt like, almost like a table with three legs at that point, right? And then one is just cut off, right? What does that mean in terms of, shared responsibility, delegation of tasks, in terms of alignment, all of that, a lot of questions, right? Because we had sort of the dynamics had always been three of us. So it sort of, shifts the dynamics in terms of really thinking about stuff, really, I think, redesigning what the fund would be, right? But as you can tell, it's been one of the best decisions of my professional life, right? Because, I think the choice, even though it was like shutting down or moving forward, I think it was in a symbolic way, it was about believing in myself and others. So even though I
Mhm.
am fully confident in terms of my abilities or this person's abilities or our combined abilities, I think moving forward was just, I think it just has been like,
I see. Wanted to backtrack first.
sure.
How this person A, right? Someone you really kind of respected. He had the skill set that was common. How did he tell you that he's out already? Did he text you? What did he say?
No, so just to be completely transparent, I think, one of the reasons I don't want to name names is,
Sure.
still friends, right? And I think one thing I've learned in my life is also to respect everybody's decisions and, obligations and everything else, what they're going through in life, right? One thing, of course, things would have been different, but, and so on. But he did tell me first, and then we had a conversation, the three of us. So it was, yeah, so pretty cordial in terms of how we move forward. We sort of had to rethink in terms of whether, I mean, the fees and just the incorporation documents and all of that. And, I do obviously update him occasionally in terms of how the fund is going and all of it. So no hard feelings, nothing like that. There is no villain in the story, right? Completely respect all of that. But yeah, yeah, he did tell me first, and then we came together as a group to sort of discuss next steps and options and all of that.
Awesome. Now you moved forward to making it your own. Tell us a moment that you made that decision already to be like, okay, we're proceeding. I'm not gonna look back. Where were you then when you made that decision?
So this was, I think, the initial after the shock factor was just one because we were legally in it, figuring out that mess, and then just I think having those conversations with my fund partner. His name is Sajan Gautam. He's a cybersecurity expert and so on. So for us, I think it was taking a step back and saying, okay, really rethinking a lot of stuff. And I think both of us wanted to move forward, and we did to give us credit, I think we understood the pros and the cons of all of it, right? The fact that two people versus three people, also in terms of the bandwidth and everything, right? And on my in my case, I'm in never in one time zone. I'm constantly traveling. All of it, I think we did understand what that meant, but I think we are both optimistic, I think. And then that sort of that kind of attitude helped us move forward.
Awesome. And you guys decided together, or was it like you convinced your partner, like, let's do it, even if it's just a two-person thing, or he was like, no, we can do it? How was that convo between you guys?
No, I think the conversation was pretty we were on the same wavelength with everything, right? And, just to add a little bit of context to all of this, I'm a community builder. I'm, sort of an extrovert. I'm, out there and everything. And what Sajan brings to the table is that really deep domain expertise, that logical thinking, all of it. So even in terms of thinking about it, it was, for me, like I said, a little bit of, personal shock, so to speak. But then, we were able to sort of not convince each other. I think we sort of wanted to at least give it a shot, right? And I think what's also really, really important is both of us, in our own ways, we had been, advising and helping startups and VCs, throughout, right? And both of us had been really also looking at an impact element to it. So even with our fund, we choose the best founders, but we also try to support underrepresented founders. So it's, impact is built into what we try to do and everything, right? So, one thing, a lot of founders face this difficulty, right? In terms of co-founder alignment, all of that. And you hear stories from both sides, right? Where one is founders that have, grown up together, they worked together for 10, 15 years and now build companies, right? Which is incredible to see. I love that, right? But then what I've experienced is also that alignment in terms of mission and the vision are also and values are also really important. We shouldn't underestimate it, right? Maybe it doesn't sort of take away from the number of years you've known each other, but just that alignment in terms of the basics are super important, right?
I love that you brought up values. And that's very important, especially this alignment of values within you and your partner, and at the same time, the entrepreneurs that reach out. Well, what's one core value that you guys really align on and you guys are championing? This is Momo VC. What value is that?
Sure. I'll share the story behind the name. So, even when the three of us we had been discussing and so on, I was very clear that I would be flexible on a lot of different things, but I was stubborn on the name. So, Momo is means dumpling in Nepali, right? And so, with Momo or anything else, right? You can think of so many different dishes around the world. You doesn't matter whether you're having it in New York or Nepal or Australia, wherever, right? When you have it, gives you a feeling of home. This comfort food, and what we've realized working with startups from all over the world is yes, the money matters, the capital, you can change the destiny of startups, but what they actually need is mentorship, guidance, access to information, access to networks, that feeling of home. So for us, I think as a fund, I think it's super, super important to do that, right? Where we don't just write checks and disappear and then, have a follow up in a year or whatever it is, right? We want to be hands on. We want to really support founders in terms of what they need, how we can help. So, and I think both of us live that ethos, right? So I think when I talk about alignment, I think that's the core, the basic, right? So for us, of course, we're a VC fund. Of course, we will make money for our investors that have trusted us and all of that. And we already see amazing results, by the way. But I think, but in the end, it's also about that empathy for founders, that really, that passion for, again, entrepreneurship and, the innovation that founders bring, right? So those kind of things, I think, are the foundation for our fund and everything that we do.
I see. You guys made a decision, you guys pushed forward. What did you learn quickly within the first 30 to 90 days? You're kind of like, oh my God, right? First time experiences and things like that.
It was, how do I put it? I was pleasantly surprised. I think I didn't even expect how well it would work, right? Just as an example, so we incorporated the fund 2024, but 2025, beginning of 2025 was when we actually started fundraising. First time fund, we've helped other funds, but like I said, first time fundraising for us, for a fund. We actually raised it in about 4 months, 4 or 5 months, right? We have some larger VCs that have supported us, and it's like incredible, right? And fundraising isn't easy by any means, and we're underrepresented investors as well, right? So I don't come with a trust fund or anything like that. I haven't sold a company, so I don't come with all of that, right? You just come with a genuine passion to, you know do something good, right? So I think just that was incredible in terms of, I think, when we talk about complementary skills, in terms of what we bring to the table, how we showcase it together. And I think the combination has been incredible. Right. So it brings, I mean, it gives me immense pride. I think I'm so proud of us that despite all of it, right? I think we actually started fundraising in Jan or Feb, something like that. But we did a roadshow across different parts of the US for a few months, and we would get incredible response from people, right? Where it was like, okay, is this happening? Is this like snowballing? It's like, it's incredible. I think just that has done amazing things for our self esteem and just the collaboration that we have. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. So looking, hindsight, looking back, what decision rule were you able to come up that you made that decision so that our emerging leaders are able to say, I can apply that next week because I have an upcoming big decision? Tell us more.
Um, I think one is, we are all going to be faced with tough decisions, right? Whether it's co-founders, whether it's anything else, right? Where, we always say, like, we have a plan and then life, you know, teaches us a lesson in different ways, right? So the most unexpected, not just the best case scenarios, but sometimes the worst case scenarios come up, right? That we don't even have. We might have a plan A, B, C, D, but then, plan, H comes into play or something like that, right? So we are never able to plan for everything in our lives. But also, I think that sense of belief in ourselves is so important. And it sounds like a cliche, but it's not, right? I think, hard decisions also make you stronger. Actually, you have to be so creative to come out of messes like this, right? In terms of everything. So my, I guess, suggestion for people is that, right? You can obviously do the due diligence in terms of finding co-founders, have that alignment in terms of expectations or in terms of accountability, commitment, bandwidth, all of that, right? Those are things that we think don't matter. They do. So I would encourage people to just take the time, even if you know somebody, really take the time to, if you're starting a new venture, which is going to be a big part of your life, you need to have talk about every single thing beforehand. And then, even after that, if something happens, I think it's also about giving yourself the grace to go through it, right? And, hoping that you land on your feet.
Awesome. It was a great story, Pretty. And now we are going to proceed with the fun portion of our program, all about New York City. All right. So, Pretty, what is your coffee order in New York?
It's I'm gonna sound like such a cliche when I say this. Oh my god. So, one disclaimer. One, I do like exploring a lot of these, not chain, not franchises, coffee shops, and just try out different things, right? But then my comfort coffee drink is always chai latte from Starbucks. It's like, so whenever, especially whenever I'm having, a sort of a interesting day, It's my go-to order. I'm not going to claim it's the best, but it just has, I like the consistency. I think that's what it is, right? So
Now let's proceed with your bagel order. What's your bagel order?
bagel order. It depends on my mood, but two sort of favorites. One is the Lux, right? And one is the what is the everything bagel with the sweet, the almond and the sweet one. Do you know what it is? Yes, yes. I think walnut and something. I think it's on the sweeter side. One is that, and then the other one is just I think a plain
Deluxe.
one, yeah, with the lox. Yes.
Classic, definitely. What's a local spot that deserves more attention?
Oh my God, New York has so many incredible places. One thing that I miss whenever I travel is just the incredible food. Sometimes it feels like the food there in New York is more authentic than all the Asian, you know, countries, right? It's incredible. The one recent favorite has been, I think it's called Prana Con or something.
Nako.
It's at Flatiron. It's they sell Thai street food.
Hi.
So incredible. I must have been there 7, 8 times so far, and every time it's just I wish I could just spend my day there.
Oh, no, it's great. I think Pranacon is my first Thai restaurant that I tried in New York. But of course, I still go to Saran Rom.
There's so many, but yeah.
Awesome. I love that answer. Just checking. What's your we're celebrating restaurant? Where are you booking?
Oh my God, worth celebrating. Huh. What is that? Okay, it also means I haven't celebrated anything in a while. I think, I mean, when the weather is nice, I love the rooftop restaurants in so many of them, whether on the Brooklyn side or in Manhattan, just so many nice spots. Completely blanking out, but anyway, I mean, and I think it depends on the mood as well. Like
Sure.
sometimes even the cheesiest touristy places like 235th or
Yeah.
or
And
like
that's
something like it just depends, right? And I love that. I think with New York, I love the energy of New York. I think there is no city in the world like that, especially for people that have the drive and want to make it happen. And just you find all kinds of places and people in different parts. So I think there is no one set, right? It depends on what you're feeling at that moment, and you could just find a place that matches that, the people that match it. So it's great.
awesome. Next question would be, let's see, which neighborhood is your personality and why?
Oh my God. Ugh. I like Soho.
Uh-huh.
Just because just window shopping and just people watching and all of that is incredible. One thing that I've also been really fortunate is while working in New York, I think the offices would move. It would be co-working spaces or something like that, and they would move neighborhoods, right? So got to really experience a lot of whether it's Flatiron or Midtown or Uptown and all of that. So got to experience bits and pieces of a little bit, but if I just roam around, I like Soho.
So if New York had a signature smell, can you describe it for me?
Good or bad.
Hey, make it lively. Honest.
There's two, I think if I were to just close my eyes and think of New York in terms of the best of New York and the worst of New York, there's two sort of things that I think of, right? If you could bottle up the drive, the passion of everybody, and I'll tell you, I'll have a longer answer to this. You know how people always say that in New York, nobody has the time. Everybody's just walking so fast. Nobody has time to even say hello and these things like that. And I've heard it all my life. And recently, started thinking about why that is, right? And I've realized that, whether people are from the US, different parts of the US, or from all over the world, they want to be in New York, especially if they want to make it, right? It's not just tech, but fashion, pharma, finance, whatever it is. So imagine the best and the brightest and the most driven people from all over the world in one place, just that, right? So it's just a lot of crazy energy. It's never enough. You're never going to be good enough. It's that, right? That sense. So bottling that, I think, I don't know how to explain it, but just this energy, like stars, right? Like twinkling stars, right? Just this boundless energy and that drive and that right. And then, the negative part is occasionally how the subways stink, right? There's a stink smell, and we're like, and I think with people that still love the city, we're like, okay, it's part of it. It's just 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 take it in.
Great. Finish the sentence. In New York, you can blank. Then explain it.
In New York, you can be whoever you want to be.
Explain, explain.
Oh, explain. Oh my
Yes,
God.
yes.
So I've realized that you can have the craziest hobbies or interests or anything like that, and you will find your tribe, right? On one hand, I do think New York can occasionally be the loneliest place on earth, but for the most part, it is where there's not a definition of a New Yorker or wannabe New Yorker or semi New Yorker or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm going to include the tri-state in terms of considering what a New Yorker is, right? I think people can come from different backgrounds, different worlds, and they can just merge into and make the city incredible, right? I think it's one place where you see everybody having strong opinions and dressing sense and like the uniqueness, and I think that's what makes everything so beautiful. You can just like you don't have to dress like a finance bro or a particular style and so on. You can just completely be yourself, authentic, outside in, and find that place for yourself, which is so, I think, so amazing.
Great, great. What's the most New York thing ever that you've done?
One is, I think there's a difference. I think a New Yorker versus somebody that has been around
Moved.
for a while. When I was moved to the East Coast initially, I think was spending time at Times Square, right? Just, I think, and then occasionally, even now, occasionally when I'm there, the lights and everything, just the whole, that's the US we imagine from outside, right? The lights and all of the city, the glitz and the glamour, so to speak. And then when you spend more time, you realize locals don't go there, right? It's just the tourists that are there. Um, for me, I think the one of the best things that I've done is spend time at the parks, right? Whether it's Central Park, Washington State Park, and so many others, right? Just watching people, watching the performers, just enjoying cherry blossoms or anything at all, just the fall leaves. I think it's just, in a city that's so full of concrete, it's those kind of places and moments are just, so nice. And so you'd really treasure that. So, yeah.
Great. Last question. What did New York teach you?
What did New York teach me? I think New York's taught me a lot about community in general, right? I think, it's on one hand, it's so vast and so diverse and so crazy, right? I mean, but then there is this incredible sense I've gotten through different communities, and I don't just mean ethnic communities, but tech communities, other interest groups, and so on. Right? There is this cohesion in that city where it's not just a place for people to explore and be the best version of themselves, but there are people that want to support that journey, that want to be part of that journey. So it's like this incredible sense that I see. So it feels like people might not even talk to each other, but there is that sense, right? I think there's a little bit of a amazing pride in being a part of that overall community, that craziness and all of that. And I think that's beautiful to see.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. We're now in the final parts of our show. Who should reach out to you?
Who should reach out to us? Okay, few things. We're always looking at for incredible founders. So we invest in pre-seed and seed stages, six focus areas: AI, cybersecurity, fintech, sustainability, biotech, health tech. So one is that. Two is, we're raising, we our first fund is really, really small. It's $2.2 million, but we're raising a bigger fund, anywhere from 25 to $40 million this year. So if anybody's interested to maybe invest with us or collaborate with us, I think, I have to share that. So, would love a conversation.
Love it. Hey, to the LPs that are watching,
Yes,
pretty is ready for the next stage.
of course.
Definitely. Awesome.
And just want to say we've raised our fund and we've invested in 5 companies so far. We're actually writing a few more checks this week. So incredible, I think, traction as well.
Where should they reach out? Where can they find you?
Sure. I'm the most active on LinkedIn, so that would be great. And then apart from that, I'm happy to share, our social media and even my email address. So happy to have people either reach us through our Momo VC website or even through our socials.
Awesome. Okay. What would be your final remarks to the emerging leaders, aspiring founders that are listening right now?
Sure. I think doing something different is always hard, right? Whether it's building a startup, whether building a fund or anything else, I think it's not going to be easy. But I think, believing in yourself, I think, is the most important thing, right? I think taking the leap isn't easy for anybody, but I think given, you know, believing, I think sometimes you see it like, you jump off an airplane and then try to build that rocket while you land, right? So it's also about sometimes giving yourself that chance, taking that leap and then trying to figure things out, right? I think we're not in a world where, where somebody's going to hand you a completely packaged, easy thing. Life is never going to be that easy, right? So just, take the leap and then, figure things out. I think, everything is figure outable. That's what I believe in.
If you're serious about making better decisions in your life, career, or business, subscribe to the Powerhouse. Every episode, we unpack one real decision under pressure so you can learn from leaders across New York City. And if there's someone whose story we should feature next, drop their name in the comments. I'm JG, and I'll see you in the next episode.